Love English Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love English Podcast. We're here to help you move beyond the textbook and into the world of real, natural English conversation. I'm your host, Leo.
And I'm Emma. It is so good to be back with all of you. Leo, in our last episode, we did a really deep dive into talking about the weather, which is the ultimate tool for starting a conversation.
It absolutely is. It's the king of small talk, but it is, by definition, small. It breaks the ice, but it doesn't build a house. So the big question is, where do you go from there? How do you move from small talk to, let's call it, medium talk?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've had a nice little chat about the drizzling rain, and now you want to actually get to know the person you're talking to. For me, the most natural next step is to ask about what they like to do, their hobbies and interests.
Exactly. This is how you discover someone's personality. What they choose to do with their free time says a lot about them, but this is also where learners can get stuck. The question, what are your hobbies, is grammatically perfect, but sometimes it can feel a little direct, a bit like you're filling out a form.
I know what you mean. It can feel a bit stiff. There are definitely smoother ways to bring it up. For example, instead of a direct question, you could share something about yourself first. Like, this weather makes me want to stay inside with a good book all weekend. I love reading. And then you can ask, what about you? What do you usually do for fun on the weekends?
That's a much softer entry. What do you do for fun, or what do you like to do in your free time, sound a bit more casual and modern than what are your hobbies. It invites a broader answer.
So let's start there. Let's talk about how to answer that question. Let's say I ask you, so Leo, what do you like to do in your free time?
Okay, well, my main hobby is hiking, but if I just say I like hiking, the conversation stops. It puts all the pressure on you to ask the next question. A better way is to give a little more detail. I could say, I'm really into hiking. I try to get out of the city and onto a trail every other weekend if I can. I just love being out in nature.
See, that's a perfect answer. It's not too long, but it's packed with information. You told me the hobby, hiking. You use a great phrase, I'm really into. That shows more passion than just, I like. You told me how often you do it, every other weekend. And you told me why you like it. I love being out in nature. Now I have so many things I can ask you about.
Exactly. The key is to give the other person something to work with. So let's flip it. Emma, what do you do for fun?
I play the guitar. Following your excellent example, I won't just say that. I'll say, well, my main creative outlet is playing the guitar. I'm not a professional or anything, but I love learning new songs and just strumming for an hour or so in the evening to unwind.
Another perfect answer. You used the wonderful phrase creative outlet, which tells me this is how you express yourself. And you told me your goal isn't to be a rock star, but to unwind, which means to relax. Now I feel like I understand you better.
So let's break this down for our listeners. We have different categories of hobbies. Leo, yours, hiking, is an active, outdoorsy hobby. Other examples might be running, cycling, playing sports like soccer or basketball, or gardening.
Right. And yours, playing the guitar, is a creative or artistic hobby. This category could also include painting, drawing, photography, writing, or even cooking and baking.
And let's not forget another huge category. Consumption hobbies, or hobbies centered around media. This is things like reading, watching movies, listening to music, or playing video games. These are incredibly common. Let's explore how to talk about those, because just saying, I like watching movies, can sound a bit passive.
That's a great point. How do you make a passive hobby sound more engaging? Again, it's about the details. If someone says, I like watching movies, I might think, okay, doesn't everyone? But if they say, I'm a huge movie buff, I especially love old black and white mystery films, now I'm interested.
Yes, use descriptive language. I'm a huge movie buff is a great phrase for a film enthusiast. For books, you could say, I'm a total bookworm. You can talk about your favorite genre. For example, I'm really into science fiction novels, or I mostly read nonfiction about history.
And for TV shows, the big word these days is binge watching. That means watching many episodes of a series in a short period of time. You could say, lately I've been binge watching this amazing new show on Netflix. Have you seen it?
And video games are another huge one. It's a very common hobby now. You could say, I'm a big gamer. I mostly play strategy games on my PC. Or I love playing cozy games like Animal Crossing to relax after a long day.
Okay, so we've covered how to ask and how to answer, but in my opinion, the most important skill in any conversation, especially this one, is how to show interest in the other person's hobby. This is how you build a real friendship.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. The follow-up question is the secret to being a great conversationalist. It shows you were actually listening and you're not just waiting for your turn to speak again.
Let's run through some scenarios. I'll tell you my hobby, and you show us how to ask great follow-up questions. So I say, I'm really into hiking.
Okay, my brain immediately has questions. My first one might be, oh, that's really cool. How did you get into that? This question asks about the origin, the history of the hobby.
That's a great one. I'd answer, well, a friend took me on a hike a few years ago, and I just fell in love with it immediately. Now what?
My next question would be about the specifics. Wow, so where do you usually go hiking? Are there good trails near the city? This shows I'm trying to picture you doing the hobby.
Another excellent question. I'd tell you about a nearby national park. Then you could ask about the difficulty.
Exactly. Is it very strenuous or is it more of a relaxing walk? And maybe a final question could be, what do you love most about it? This is a deep question that asks about the why.
Look at that. With 4 simple follow-up questions, how did you get into it? Where do you go? Is it difficult? And what do you love most about it? You've turned my simple statement into a meaningful 5-minute conversation. That is the magic trick.
Let's do it for my hobby. I say my main creative outlet is playing the guitar.
Okay, my turn. First question. That's amazing. How long have you been playing?
Oh, on and off for about 5 years now. I'm mostly self-taught from watching videos online.
See, you gave me more information to work with. Self-taught is interesting. My next question. Wow, self-taught is so impressive. What kind of music do you like to play?
I mostly enjoy playing acoustic versions of pop songs. Right now, I'm trying to learn a song by Ed Sheeran.
I love Ed Sheeran. That's so cool. Do you ever write your own music, or do you prefer playing covers?
And there it is again. A fantastic, engaging conversation from a few well-placed questions. It's really just about being curious.
It is. But what if you genuinely don't know anything about their hobby? Let's say someone tells you their hobby is, I don't know, bouldering, and you have no idea what that is.
That's a great scenario. It's okay to admit you don't know. It's actually a great way to learn. You could say, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that term. What exactly is bouldering? People usually love explaining their hobbies to newcomers.
That's so true. Don't pretend to know. Just ask. What does that involve? What kind of equipment do you need for that? These are great questions that show curiosity, not ignorance.
Now let's address another common fear. What if someone asks you about your hobbies and you feel like you don't have any? Maybe you're a busy parent or you work 2 jobs and you feel like your life isn't interesting enough.
That is a very real and common feeling. The first thing to remember is that you don't have to be training for a marathon or painting a masterpiece to have a valid answer. Free time can just be for relaxing.
Exactly. It's perfectly fine to say something like, honestly, with my schedule, I don't have a lot of time for specific hobbies. When I do get some free time, I really just enjoy catching up with my friends or watching a movie at home to decompress.
That is a fantastic, honest, and relatable answer. You've answered the question, explained your life situation, and mentioned things that are still conversation starters, like friends and movies.
Another way to think about it is to broaden the definition of hobby. Maybe you love trying new recipes. That's a hobby. Maybe you love organizing your home. That's a hobby. Maybe you enjoy listening to podcasts about history. That's a hobby. It doesn't have to be something you spend a lot of money or time on.
I think it's also useful to distinguish between a hobby, an interest, and a passion. They're slightly different. An interest is something you enjoy learning about, like history. You might not do anything, but you're interested. A hobby is something you actively do, like gardening. A passion is a hobby or interest that has become a huge important part of your life and identity.
That's a great way to put it. My guitar playing is a hobby. For a professional musician, it's their passion and their job. Your hiking is a hobby, but for someone who climbs Mount Everest, it's a passion.
So when someone asks what you do for fun, you can talk about any of those things. Let's do one last big role play to put all these pieces together. Let's pretend we're colleagues at a new job making conversation in the break room.
Okay, I'll start. Hi, Leo. It's been a busy first week, hasn't it?
Hey, Emma, it sure has. I'm looking forward to the weekend to finally recharge my batteries.
Me too. Do you have any fun plans for the weekend? See? A nice, indirect way to ask about hobbies.
I'm hoping to go for a hike on Saturday morning if the weather holds up. I'm really into hiking.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I've always wanted to try hiking, but I have no idea where to start. Are there good trails around here?
There are some amazing ones just a 30-minute drive from the city. There's one with a beautiful waterfall. It's not too difficult. You should check it out sometime. What about you? What do you like to do when you're not busy with work?
Well, my main way to relax is by playing the guitar. I'm trying to teach myself through online videos, which is a fun challenge.
Wow, that's so cool. Self-taught is really impressive. What made you decide to pick up the guitar?
I've just always loved the sound of acoustic music, and I thought it would be a rewarding skill to learn. It's harder than it looks, but I'm enjoying the process.
I can imagine. Well, it was really nice chatting with you, Emma. I'll see you on Monday.
You too, Leo. Have a great hike. And scene. That felt like a real, natural, and friendly conversation. We both learned something about each other and built a foundation for a workplace friendship.
We did. And that is the power of this topic. So let's do a final recap for our listeners. 1. Ask about hobbies in a natural way, like what do you do for fun? 2. When you answer, give a little extra detail, why you like it, how often you do it. 3. The most important step, be curious and ask good follow-up questions. 4. It's okay if your hobbies are simple, and it's okay to ask for an explanation if you don't know what their hobby is.
And remember, the goal isn't to impress the other person. The goal is to connect with them. Sharing what you love and being curious about what they love is the best way to do that.
Perfectly said. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into hobbies and interests. We hope you feel ready to go out and make some new friends.
We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Love English Podcast. Remember, every minute you spend learning English is an investment in your future. Keep learning and see you in the next episode.